Okay, so today we're looking at Hermetic Yoga Beyond the Middle Pillar, Volume 1 by Frater Thabion, none other than Carol Poke Runyon himself. Okay, so this volume was much anticipated. I was really looking forward to receiving it, having studied quite a few Eastern systems of yoga and energy channeling, the microcosmic orbit by Mantak Chia, for example. Another version of that by Michael Wynn in America, which is very good for Westerners. I was very interested in seeing what this Hermetic Yoga was all about. And so let me go through the table of contents just as a starter. Okay, so this book is not that lengthy, but it is packed with a ton of information. It's about 110 to 112 pages long. It starts off with the introduction to Volume 1, then it goes into the history and theory about the Hermetic Yoga, how he developed it. It talks about the 7 seals of revelation, that's another chapter. Then from there, we move into the practical application chapter on page 28. And there are 3 parts of this: the preliminary attitudes and techniques, then the magical visualizations, and then the Hermetic caduceus is explained in this chapter, in those following subchapters. Then if we move on with that, the next chapter is all on exercises and training, pages 49 to 58, really, I could say intense, but very interesting and very worthwhile exercises to do. They are modifications and amplifications of a lot of things that Franz Barden was doing. Franz Barden's approach is one of the key styles, you could say, the key philosophies put into practice here, but they are modified exercises of what Franz Barden was doing. I think that's one of the best ways to put it. Now, people that don't like Franz Barden so much may say, doesn't sound interesting, but keep an open mind. These are modified exercises, and they are kind of unique unto themselves in that what it leads to is a much more comprehensive and a much more workable and you could say unique system of Hermetic Yoga based on the Golden Dawn, the flashing sword diagram. But we'll get into that a little bit later. From there, the next chapter is called Mandalas and Icons of Hermetic Yoga, and it has 6 subchapters relating to parts of the system. The first subchapter is called the head, then there are the mudras, then the next one's magical alphabet, the next one's the master ritual, then after that the mandalas and icons, and then an explanation why the Canaanite gods are used in his system rather than in an Egyptian style god forms like the traditional Golden Dawn uses. Then after that is a very, very good chapter on a method for opening the third eye. After that we come to unity of the Eastern and Western systems, and he does this rather cleverly. Once again, the base is the Golden Dawn system. I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. Then after that, we have the bibliography, which is always very interesting and furthers your study, and whets your appetite for a little bit more on the system that Poke Runyon has put together. Then there are, there are 3 appendices. Appendix 1. New Tarot Trumps for an 11-sphere tree of life. I found that really interesting, really good concept, and you got to see this yourself because it is interesting. It's very thought-provoking. Not everybody will agree on how he has come to arrive to the conclusions he makes, but in my opinion, it is very effective, it's very logical, it does work, and it makes sense. Appendix 2, the Hermetic Caduceus. This was a publication that formed part of the Seventh Ray back in 1977, and that's the first time he started elaborating on the Hermetic Yoga system, which he has now decided to reveal to the general public. Appendix 3 is about the Ferriferian chakra system by Frederick Adams, way back once again in 1977, and basing a lot of the conclusions and suggestions by Frederick Adams back then. Poke was able to incorporate a lot of those, or some of those suggestions, into the system he finally tweaked and finalized into what he calls the Hermetic Yoga system. Then the last section is about the associate members page for people interested in joining his organization. And it's basically just discusses that if someone is interested. Okay, so let me move on from there and talk a little bit about the Hermetic Yoga system itself. The Hermetic system of yoga that Poke Runyon outlines here is based on the Golden Dawn graphs, the lightning flash or the flaming sword. Now this depicted the descent of the light from Keter down to Malkuth in direct numeric progression from 1 to 10. So all one had to do, Poke says, was straighten out the zigzag path, and the three pillars became one. Okay, so that was the beginning key of what he did. Then Poke reveals his experiences and initiations into the Tibetan tantric system. He studied with Adam Sala Abbott in 1987, I believe it was, and he took a lot of initiations during that retreat. And in the same year, he concluded with a color chakra initiation from the Dalai Lama himself. Okay, that is one of the big initiations in Tibetan esoteric Buddhism, or shall we say tantric Buddhism. Okay, so Poke basically outlines how this was really invaluable in his quest to fully develop the Hermetic Yoga program. Okay, he does state, if I find it now, I'm flicking through and I lost the page. Where are we? Here it is. Okay, so he states, the Tibetan experience also provided another invaluable asset, total credibility, at least to my own satisfaction. I realized that what we had was just as spiritual, just as empowering, and just as effective as what the Tibetans had. And they had had 1,000 years of study and practice behind them. I was now able to practice and teach our system with complete confidence, even as we continued to develop and improve it. Another benefit of my Tibetan experience was freedom from the tyranny of the Woodruff chakra arrangement. Anyone who has dabbled in New Age yoga knows that this classic Indian chakra system is everywhere and assumed to be the universal authority. How could you possibly challenge it? The chakras are connected to the glands and to the nadis or nadis and the acupuncture points and the vortices and the etheric matrix and the auric emanations. But are they really? And even if they are, what difference does it make? The Tibetans have a different chakra arrangement for every deity they internalize. And you don't find this out until you are actually initiated. Okay? So that is also a very valid and unique point that you don't usually hear. People believe that there is only one chakra system, and I think over I would say the past 30, 40, 50, 60 years, only really one chakra system was promoted, and people believe that was the system. But if you really know much about Hinduism or the Tantra itself, there are various types of chakra systems that are used to attain different results. Okay? So, I mean, that's something that Poke was way ahead of most, just about all Westerners way back then. Hermetic Yoga Beyond the Middle Pillar, Volume 1 by Frater Fabian, which is Poke Runyon, with inclusions by Frater Daedalus, Frederick C. Adams, and Frater Solomon, Michael Johnson. The interior stars of the Western esoteric tradition. I'm just going to read the introduction to you because it's worthy of a read as always. This volume is no exception, and it's by Frater Fabian, none other than Poke Runyon. Introduction to Volume 1. This book has been a long time in the making. The theory, method, and techniques of the spiritual practices it describes have been developed, tried, and tested by members of the Ordo Templi Astartes for nearly 40 years. Much of the material in this work is comprised of updated and collated instructional monographs, journal articles, graphics, and study materials used in associate membership and active membership training programs. Associate membership meaning online, and active membership meaning actual in-lodge sessions. This book is intended to serve as a standard text for students and instructors belonging to the OTA. We are making it available to the membership at cost and releasing it to an interested public as part of our series of publications and videos promoting and establishing the validity of the modern Western esoteric tradition. Long ago, we discovered that the best way to preserve the integrity of secret teachings is to publish them. Really effective magical techniques, such as our once secret magic mirror method, inevitably leaked out, and in the process became oversimplified and misused. A magical program or method can and perhaps should be kept secret while it is in development. But once it is fully operational, there is no necessity for secrecy, unless it involves the illegal, the immoral, or the unhealthy. To be quite honest, our Hermetic Magical Yoga system initially derived from Israel Regardie's exposition of the Middle Pillar exercise from the 1920 Stella Matutina version of the Golden Dawn, the origin of which Regardie attributes to the Stella Matutina's founder, Dr. Felkin. Regardie's own Middle Pillar ritual first appeared in his 1930s publication, The Art of True Healing, which has subsequently been reprinted in Foundations of Practical Magic in 2007. It is important to mention this work in its original version because several succeeding renditions of the Middle Pillar were significantly edited and revised. As we progress in our argument for the extended Middle Pillar as the proper Western psychic center arrangement, we will refer back to Regardie's original essay to support our position. Regardie wrote in the Complete Golden Dawn System of Magic, "Then there is the Middle Pillar technique, whose importance simply cannot be overemphasized in any way. The student who has neglected to achieve considerable proficiency in this particular practice will find himself frustrated at every turn." What Regardie means by that is simply that the magician draws down macrocosmic celestial power via the lightning flash down into the spheres of the tree of life in his microcosmic body of light. Without this internalization of spiritual power, he can do no magic. His batteries are not charged, his fuel tank is empty, his ritual is no more than a dramatic performance. If you are a magician, or if you aspire to be one and you fully understand and appreciate the implications of the above statement, we will have no difficulty in establishing the validity and preeminence of our reconstructed Western Hermetic Yoga system. We are completing the work that Regardie began and left unfinished. Hermetic Yoga Beyond the Middle Pillar Volume 1 by Frater Thabion, which is Poke Runyon, with inclusions by Frater Daedalus, Frederick C. Adams, and Frater Solomon, Michael Johnson. The interior stars of the Western esoteric tradition. I'm just going to read the introduction to you because it's worthy of a read as always. This volume is no exception, and it's by Frater Thabion, none other than Poke Runyon. Introduction to Volume 1. This book has been a long time in the making. The theory, method, and techniques of the spiritual practices it describes have been developed, tried, and tested by members of the Ordo Templi Astartes for nearly 40 years. Much of the material in this work is comprised of updated and collated instructional monographs, journal articles, graphics, and study materials used in associate membership and active membership training programs. Associate membership meaning online, and active membership meaning actual in-lodge sessions. This book is intended to serve as a standard text for students and instructors belonging to the OTA. We are making it available to the membership at cost and releasing it to an interested public as part of our series of publications and videos promoting and establishing the validity of the modern Western esoteric tradition. Long ago, we discovered that the best way to preserve the integrity of secret teachings is to publish them. Really effective magical techniques, such as our once secret magic mirror method, inevitably leaked out and in the process became oversimplified and misused. A magical program or method can and perhaps should be kept secret while it is in development. But once it is fully operational, there is no necessity for secrecy, unless it involves the illegal, the immoral, or the unhealthy. To be quite honest, our Hermetic magical yoga system initially derived from Israel Regardie's exposition of the middle pillar exercise from the 1920 Stella Matutina version of the Golden Dawn, the origin of which Regardie attributes to the Stella Matutina's founder, Dr. Felkin. Regardie's own middle pillar ritual first appeared in his 1930s publication, The Art of True Healing, which has subsequently been reprinted in Foundations of Practical Magic in 2007. It is important to mention this work in its original version because several succeeding renditions of the middle pillar were significantly edited and revised. As we progress in our argument for the extended middle pillar as the proper Western psychic center arrangement, we will refer back to Regardie's original essay to support our position. Regardie wrote in the Complete Golden Dawn System of Magic, "Then there is the middle pillar technique, whose importance simply cannot be overemphasized in any way. The student who has neglected to achieve considerable proficiency in this particular practice will find himself frustrated at every turn." What Regardie means by that is simply that the magician draws down macrocosmic celestial power via the lightning flash down into the spheres of the tree of life in his microcosmic body of light. Without this internalization of spiritual power, he can do no magic. His batteries are not charged, his fuel tank is empty, his ritual is no more than a dramatic performance. If you are a magician, or if you aspire to be one and you fully understand and appreciate the implications of the above statement, we will have no difficulty in establishing the validity and preeminence of our reconstructed Western Hermetic Yoga system. We are completing the work that Regardie began and left unfinished. So Poke Runyon developed in the Hermetic Yoga system an astral Kabbalistic system, emphasizing the spheres on the tree of life rather than the paths. And the magical color is imposed on the astral, not what is scried on the etheric plane. Alright? So anyway, what he has done is he's created a practical version of the Golden Dawn's 11 sphere tree of life. And he has directed the descending current of supernal power into the Kabbalistic cube of space, as represented by the human head. So the three mother letters, Aleph, Mem, and Shin, could converge on Saturn, Tau, in the center of the skull, as a manifestation of a true tetragrammaton and a replication of the original creative process. Now he goes on to state that this concept really needs to be visualized and contemplated to be appreciated, and he has a very good graphic on page 60. Okay. Alright, so he has included the original paper on the 11 sphere tree arrangement in the appendix for everybody's reference, and he developed a series of mudras based on the symbols of the four elements and a musical scale for the descending chart. He goes on to say that most recently he discovered an effective mudra method for opening the third eye, and this is elaborated on in a separate chapter. Let's have a look where that is. I did read you the chapter contents before, the list of chapters. That would be, yes, on page 93, the method for opening the third eye. Okay, so also one of the most rewarding and inspiring aspects of Poke Runyon's Hermetic Yoga system is visiting the interior yet serratic palaces of the gods and goddesses of the system's pantheon. And he uses a Canaanite Phoenician pantheon of god forms, which are quite compatible with the Solomonic biblical mythos or the Greco-Roman classical mythical counterparts and Kabbalistic attributions, which are all connected in the Western cultural collective unconsciousness, I should say. Okay. He goes on to state that in Volume 2 of Hermetic Yoga, he will explore the evolvement of his ancient pagan pantheon via the progression outlined in the Nicene document of Hippolytus and Jesse Weston's From Ritual to Romance into the planetary and Sephirotic angels of the later Hermetic Rosicrucian tradition. Okay, so that's quite a mouthful, but that's something to look forward to. So if we move on from there, you get the gist that this is a very, very involved step-by-step system where there's a lot of magical visualization training through types of self-hypnosis and a lot of focus training, which both are keys into achieving the desired result of then channeling the energies. The color scales and the paths used in his chakra system are explained step by step. But first of all, there are prerequisites and certain exercises that you have to do in order to develop yourself and your inner abilities, and refine your system to be able to then absorb and channel this very powerful energy through the chakras as represented here. So the first session introduces the student to self-hypnosis, Tratakam Yoga, optical phenomenon, the zero light phenomenon, and the exercises or exercise of the sinking pearl. In the second session, then you go on and you go through the explanation of the 11 sphere tree of life and how it relates to the Western chakra system. Then you'll have the roses, chakras activated, and you meditate on the Earth Center. The final session presents the high philosophy of Hermetic Magick and a comparison to Tibetan principles and methods in the process of creative visualizations. All that will be explained, okay, further on after that section. Now, creative visualization training methods are demonstrated, and that's something that you will then go in stages to practice, and each stage builds upon the next. Okay, so what he's doing is he's setting up a system where you're integrating these disciplines into one progressive course. And he goes on to state that this is because the Western hypnotic magical trance state is not the same as the Eastern yoga trance state. One is physically active and exteriorized, whereas the other is sedentary and interiorized. Even exteriorized visions are projected from a sedentary position in the Eastern mode, or the Eastern model. Now, the Hermetic magician needs to integrate both methods and states of consciousness into a smoothly blended style of practice. Okay? He goes on to say if that seems a little bit murky at this point, he assures you that it will become clearer as you proceed through the manual. And he is correct in that. He's done it brilliantly. He takes you right from the beginnings of the system, going through the theory. He gives you the necessary information so you can assimilate the philosophy behind the Hermetic Yoga system that he's putting together and why it works and how it works. Then he progresses very gradually through the necessary exercises, the practical applications, the exercises you should be doing to prepare yourself to then channel the energies to activate each center. He does this brilliantly.
Now a little bit more about how the system came to be composed by Poke Runyon, not only through his own studies, but also in the various groups that he was being initiated in the Western Hermetic mystery traditions, etc., and also other leading anthropologists and also occultists. There is some validity in the theory, or it's actually now becoming more than just a theory. There's quite a few serious links have been uncovered that yoga, Eastern Indian yoga, was actually heavily influenced by the Greeks. When at the time of Alexander, when he started conquering the world, he conquered various parts of Asia, and he did go into the northern part of India, and he conquered various regions there, and the Greeks settled there for a couple of centuries. And with him he brought the philosophies of Pythagoras. If I read here in one of the excerpts here, if I find it correctly, where is it? Yes, it has been suggested that yoga was originated in the West by Pythagoras and then imported into India by Alexander, also known as Iskander. Several hundred years before Patanjali wrote down the precepts in Sanskrit. The ancient Hermetic caduceus represents a snake-like primary nadis of the Ida and the Pingala, intertwined about the central channel of the Sushumna and crowned by the winged essence of liberated consciousness at Sahasraram. The striking similarity has been noted and pondered upon as long as yoga has been known in the West. Okay, this is a quote from Woodruff, 1919. And this has been pondered upon as long as yoga has been known in the West. So, okay, so that gives reference to a lot of research that was uncovered. Now, there have been numerous attempts to align the Sephirot of the Ots Chim, which is the tree of life, with the chakras of the yoga system. These efforts have always failed because their authors refuse to consider the problem from a logical perspective, preferring instead to base their interpretations on literal readings of the Hindu and Kabbalistic texts. In the traditional relation of the Ots Chim, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, never mind, to the Adam Kadmon, which is the spiritual body, the Sephirot are arranged on 3 pillars instead of 1, as on the Sushumna of the chakras, okay? And of course there's a lot more detail into that if you read it. But I want to go back earlier, and I want to read you more excerpts as to how this came all about and where it fits in, and because it's important to know how he came to the conclusions he has in the rest of the manual and how it's all set up. So if we go back to 1975, on the 2nd of December 1975, he states, "I had the kind of experience a Gnostic might have described as a revelation from higher powers. Although I prefer to think that my subconscious had tapped into that intellect of the collective unconscious, which we call the Sephira of Hod, after months of speculative meditation on how to form the true body of light, I suddenly realized that the building of the microcosmic tree within the body was more than a mere philosophical analogy. The inspiration came literally in a flash, the symbolic lightning flash that descends through the Sephirot of the tree in numerical sequence from Keter down to Malkut." Okay, so for those of you that are unfamiliar with the lightning flash, it's a diagram. It's we have to go back to the Golden Dawn system. Okay, so Poke is using the knowledge, the philosophies, and the practical applications that were developed within that Hermetic mystery tradition, which was known as the Golden Dawn. And if you don't have any text on that, I recommend that you get some if you're interested, and you can dig deeper in that. But you really only need this manual, because this is the only manual to have this kind of advanced form of Hermetic Yoga, which combines what he discovered in the Golden Dawn system and also the Eastern systems, Tibetan energy channeling practices, and his own experiences. Okay, so he goes on to say, "With a mystical certainty, I knew that the Sephira of Tiferet was identical with the chakra of Anahata in the Laya Yoga system. This was the key to bringing the Eastern and Western microcosmic mandalas together. And even though I will take credit for the lightning flash inspiration, I must defer to Frederick Adams for pointing me in the right direction, and to Lady Mara with opening my chakras via the SS technique during the Soar Artemis, and my initiation into the order of 1734 on the 4th of October 1975. Okay, 2 other questions must be answered before we accept the system for practice. First, are the Kabbalistic attributes of the Sephirot compatible with the characteristics of the Hindu chakras, and does it matter if they are not? And is the Kabbalistic color scheme applicable to them? To answer the former, we must say that the Kabbalistic centers are remarkably similar but not identical. If this is a problem, then consider that there are different chakra systems for every Tibetan deity. The Sufi or Dervish orders, according to Idris Shah, consider the actual physical locations of the Lataif, which is the Sufic psychic centers, to be theoretical. Secondly, Hindu symbolic colors applied to the chakras do not always match the colors scried on the etheric plane by adepts. Alright, okay, so anyway, now you get the gist of the philosophies and the backgrounds and how it all fits in. So, okay, so we've talked enough about the philosophy and the theory of the system and how it all came about. And now we're going to look into the actual practical. So in the beginning, what they do basically is they start with the preliminary exercises, culminating into eventually the complete Hermetic Yoga sequence from Keta down to Malkut, from the head region down to your feet. Okay, then up and into the sphere of Yesod. So a lot of similarities there to the microcosmic orbit, the Eastern Tibetan Chinese system of circulating energy. So, but done in the Hermetic style. Okay, so the first section would be the, after doing some preliminaries, would be the yoga practice, which is bringing down celestial power from Keta to Malkut. And he goes through the three important things to always remember, etc. These are really preliminaries. How to prepare yourself, seating arrangements. Then the next section is the fire breath, the pranayama, the fire breath, in the nose and out the mouth technique. And then later on, after you've become more accustomed to the fire breath, you move on to what's called the sun and moon breath. But initially you don't do that. Okay. After that, the next exercise you do, of course, are the pranayama and affirmation mantras. So basically in this phase, you integrate the affirmation with the pranayama sequence. And the timing is about the same as the pranayama that you did before. And this allows you to maximize and imprint the pranayama. And you'll know what this is once you read the book. Charging it effectively. Okay, so alchemical prana is oxygen. Also in a sequence, they employ the Lala Yoga supersound, which is internalized mantras on the intake breath and vocalized mantra on the out breath. Okay, and this works very well with the fire breath in the nose and out the mouth sequence as mentioned earlier. Alright, so these are all the preliminary exercises. After that, you do the declaration. The declaration is also very important to get you into the point of bringing down the light. Okay, and it's, I won't say anymore. You really have to do this technique. It's a bit lengthy, but it starts channeling down the light within you through the various centers. Okay, then after that, you get through to the point where you do the, at Malkut, you do the Cave of the Dragon, where you start settling down the energies. Once you have completed the descent in Atziluth, okay, we're referring to the Tree of Life here, so you really have to have the diagrams in front of you. Well, it's in this book anyway, but if you're not familiar with the Golden Dawn, a lot of what we're talking about here will just go over your head. But once you buy this manual, it's comprehensive, so you'll have no problem following it. But bear with me if you're not familiar with the terminology we're discussing. So anyway, you've completed the descent in Atziluth, and now you're going to do the sequence called the Cave of the Dragon. You've illuminated the psychic centers, so that at this point you activate the spirit body and awaken the dragon. Okay, they're sending this energy up to the caduceus to open what's called the roses or the jewels, and this allows you to enter the temples of the gods in the Esoteric dimension, as Poke describes it. After that, you form the spirit body. These are more exercises where you step into, you form the spirit body in this visualized sequence. After that, you wake the dragon, Okay, so the dragon is the Western counterpart to the Eastern Kundalini spirit, which is female. And the Western dragon is the male archetype, okay, and symbolizes the same Kundalini energy. Okay, you got to remember, men and women both have testosterone on drastically different levels, but testosterone is extremely important in energy and in vitality and in feeling positive. Okay, so having testosterone, despite what's been on the media, too much testosterone, it's actually nonsense. You're talking about the chemical side effects mixed with various other narcotics that a lot of these freaks are taking. But testosterone on itself is vitality, it is energy, it's what keeps you in a positive mood, it gives you drive, it is aggressive, but it is not psychotic aggression. So anyway, both men and women have testosterone, and the energy is based on that. It's very, very powerful energy. All right, now he says, our dragon was considered an evil force to be overcome by the prudish Johann Gichtel, whereas we modern Rosicrucians consider him a vital force to be mounted and ridden like a knight's brave and faithful charger with wings. So, wake up the dragon with the name of the earth angel who rules over him. Vibrate Sandalphon in a low-pitched voice. Okay, and he goes into the procedure there. And then we move on, and you do the Tanit and Lotan in the Palace of Yesod exercise. Okay, and this is the moon goddess and the mistress of the sphere of memory. Okay. Now, compared to Tibetan practice, these exercises are actually simple and direct, but they do require the preliminary concentration exercises mentioned earlier. Once these basics are mastered and the above sequence from Keta down to Malkut and up to Yesod is performed, it's no more difficult and just as rewarding as the popular, he says, Vajra Yogini program mastered by himself and several other members of the Ordo Templi Astartes. The Vajra Yogini program is also Tibetan Buddhism, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, so at that point, he goes on to describe the mandalas and icons of Hermetic Yoga about the head. And these are very esoteric kind of techniques and methods that are prevalent in the Western mystery traditions like the Golden Dawn. So he goes through a full explanation there and how to implement that into the system. There's certain mudras and hand positions and stations that activate certain centers and get you into the correct channeling of energy when you use it with the fire breath mentioned before. Alright, then he moves into the master ritual of the Hermetic Caduceus, and this ritual is intended to empower, develop, and employ the 8 psychic centers of the Hermetic Caduceus. The 8 psychic centers. So the long form should be practiced on a daily basis, and the short form is used during the septagram ritual as a prelude to all invocation and evocation rituals, and also before each ritual during the Holy Guardian Angel retreat. Now, the master ritual is the most important rite in your personal magical development, okay? And it's all outlined here. It's extremely powerful once done on a consistent basis and done correctly. You can really feel the energy centers awakening and developing, and it really has an effect on your personal aura as well, in my opinion. The master ritual is the most important rite in your personal magical development, and it is outlined here. Okay. Doing that after doing the preliminaries and everything mentioned before, you're going to feel a massive change in not only in your ritual but also your physical body and your outlook. It does start changing a lot of things about you and done correctly. Alright, so he does mention always use at least the short form before magical sphere operations. Alright, okay. Then he goes down and there's a diagram which shows you the mystic roses in descent and ascent. Remember, the energy is channeled from the top down and then back up to form a loop. Okay, so now we've gone through the mandalas and icons of Hermetic Yoga. We've gone through all the exercises, starting with the head, the mudras, the magical alphabet, the master ritual, which is so important, the mandalas, icons, and even explains why he uses the Canaanite gods, and it really makes sense. Then he gives you a really, really useful extra exercise on how to open the third eye. Very good, simple method. And then for those people that have been incorporating the Eastern systems and they'd like to try this and unify the two systems, he's done an excellent job of outlining the process on how to unify the Eastern and Western yoga systems into your own practice as one. Okay, so there's lots of explanations that it would take so long to review every section, etc. But this is a very comprehensive step-by-step manual on incorporating this very powerful Hermetic Yoga technique. Those that have been listening and have felt that a lot of things that have been discussed, the terminologies are a little bit confusing. Don't worry about that. We're talking about the Golden Dawn system, mainly the Hermetic system, and the name forms found in that system. Everything is here though, so once you get the book, it's pretty simple. It is very thorough. It will take a few readings if you're very new to this, but if you have some familiarity with the Golden Dawn system or yoga systems or microcosmic orbit energy channeling or even the middle pillar, you'll be up and running in no time. It is a very, very, very good practice, this Hermetic Yoga, the way he's done it. You do feel it really does add something to your ritual, something very powerful that was missing before. Now, like I mentioned before, some people are naturally at a different level than others in terms of spiritual development or energy or power that they're born with or have developed. So that's only natural. But this will take it one step further, and it really is enabling you to. The analogy would be to go from a mini Morris, a little car, into an Audi or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. Okay, if you want to use analogies, that's the step up in power and energy that I feel that this system and technique will give you. It is really, really good. Okay, so I recommend you get that. Once again, it's profusely illustrated with some black and white and mostly beautiful color plates. He uses a poetic prose to describe a lot of things, which is very interesting and very entertaining to read. But the techniques set down are very concise, they're very precise, very step by step, and it's brilliantly done. So I really do totally recommend you to get this book from. It's up in, at the moment it's available from Amazon. I don't know how much longer it will stay up. The first print run sold out pretty quickly, and I think now this is the second print run which is available. I urge anybody that really wants to supercharge their magic and their rituals to get it and to start practicing it, not only will it help you magically in your rituals and add power, but also physically. You really recharge you can feel an improvement in your physicality as well, which is very important. But mostly this is an energetic practice. It is really powerful, and it's brilliantly done. I cannot say enough good things about it. All right, so a bit lengthy today because this topic was a little bit difficult, and I didn't want to give too much away, but at the same time, I really needed to talk about the finer aspects of this Hermetic Yoga system. I hope I didn't confuse you too much, but the bottom line is, if you really want to supercharge your magic, take it to the next level with real energetic power, spiritual power, this book will give you that, okay? All right, so wishing you all a very happy morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on which part of the globe you are from. Here in Japan, it is a beautiful Saturday morning, and I'm going to have breakfast now. So wishing you all the best, and hope to have you guys tune in again sometime soon. Thanks.